Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with the Ages of Apocalypse. So far, Jean Grey and Cable have each had their own realities warped as part of Apocalypse's last-ditch effort to contain the power of the 12. Let's see how that works out for the angry Canadian with spikes shooting out of his hands. Wolverine number 148's cover features the Fantastic Four, apparently with a different powerhouse in the form of the Hulk, a different Firehead with Ghost Rider, a different scientist with an unmasked Peter Parker, and of course our title character who's supposed to replace Sue Storm because they both can be stealthy? I can't tell from his posture, but maybe he has the number 4 cut out on his costume. Though his chest is so hairy, I don't think we could tell if he did. We get the same recap page we got with Cable. Stan Lee presents A World Gone Horribly Wrong. And in 2011, DC Comics would tell Stan Lee, hold my beer. Written by Eric Larson with art by Roger Cruz, Andy Owens, Scott Hoblish, and Wilson Ramos, we begin in the near future, with tenuous allies Annihilus and Blastar leaping through the negative zone to destroy this iteration of the FF, who had opened the portal as a more humane option of dealing with the Harpy, apparently Bruce Banner's mutated wife. Speaking of wives, Mary Jane is there, pointing out that her child, May Parker, is wall-crawling towards the villains. Also in this universe, Ben Parker is a stockbroker by day, hippie detective by night. Dr. Doom is a daytime TV show host as part of Oprah Winfrey's media empire, and Rick Jones manages a chain of Dairy Queens. Note how everyone else's attention is on the villains or the baby, but Wolvie is looking in a completely different direction. Is he distracted by something shiny, or is this an I can't even gaze off into space? Anyway, as Pete takes a moment to return his bundle of joy to her mother's arms, who looks like she changed shirts from the last page, he mentions that there was a previous FF team that these villains had fought. Maybe they're just upset that the superheroes they were arching got rebooted into something unfamiliar. But why would that make anyone mad, right? A redirected energy blast hits Hulk in the old Moneymaker, allowing Harpy to free herself and compelling Jolly Green to attack Blastar, punching him back into the negative zone. While Spidey webs up Harpy and Ghost Rider is at the mercy of Annihilus's boasting, Hulk eyes Wolvie with intent to pulverize. Between Logan and Parker, it's explained that Hulk shifts between having Banner's intelligence and his usual rage, and that shot to the face tilted it into the latter persona, one with a grudge against the old Knucklehead.
Big people feel pain too.
Fortunately, Peter hits him with a gamma gun that returns him to Bruce Banner. But this all leaves Annihilus feeling forgotten about and a little needy for attention. He attacks Wolverine, but before their scuffle gets too heated, Peter throws the webbed-up Harpy at the other winged menace, sending them both into the zone in time for Banner to close the portal. 3 points for the home team! That's a natural thing to shout when banishing my wife to another worldly realm, right? Guys? Ghost Rider finally gets to contribute something, using his flames to melt the metal panel shut. The fight's over, but there's still the tragedy of Betty Banner, stuck as the Harpy, with the only possible cure being potentially fatal. The one takeaway is that she can fly freely in the negative zone until a safer remedy is discovered. Parker mentions how daunting it is that, on top of the foes they made as individual heroes, taking up the Fantastic Four mantle has grandfathered in the original team's rogues gallery, but Bruce says it's up to them to keep the world safe after their sacrifice. Then Pete suggests they head to the lab, run some tests, with MJ's objection falling on deaf ears. Save your breath, Red. You'll be lucky if you can pry those two away from their test tubes by dinner time. The sad thing is they aren't doing legitimate scientific research, they're just playing with Parker's old creepy crawlers playset. Logan invites the writer, this one being Danny Ketch, out for some beers, but Flamehead has other things to do, so Wolvie will visit his girlfriend Stacy instead. Ghosty flies out on a high-tech motorcycle, monologuing to himself about the sad state of things, as most of the buildings surrounding the Four Freedoms Plaza have smoke billowing out from them. Either no one knows how to put out fires anymore, or smoke machines have become oddly popular in their neighborhood. After Reed, Sue, Ben, and Johnny died fighting the High Lord, the world has only declined, with this new team barely able to combat the decay. While his 3 cohorts seem to be closely knit and relish being the new FF, Ketch has felt like an outsider.
They only ever invite me to barbecues to light the grill or to cook s'mores over my head.
Though I don't know if relishing is the right term, considering how Peter was lamenting their decision to be the new Fantastic Four just a couple pages ago. Anyway, Ghost is targeted by unknown parties about to fire on him when we jump to a diner where Wolvie is sulking in a booth. What's with these customers in the foreground? This woman looks annoyed and the guy next to her has a villain smirk. Do they think they can mug the reader or something? Whatever. Speaking with his aforementioned girlfriend Stacy, a waitress at the restaurant, Logan seems to feel the same as the writer, that the others have things more together than he does. Since they'd filled in for the FF before, note the handy-dandy reference box, he felt obligated to stick with it with the original team gone. However, he feels guilty over having left the X-Men when they needed him most.
Their off-Broadway rendition of Rent just wasn't the same without him.
Stacy insists that he needs to stop being so hard on himself and move on, just as the Fantastiflare lights up in the sky. Ain't that just my luck? My burger ain't even up yet.
Well, you did insist on killing the cow yourself and then dragging it into the kitchen, so who's at fault here?
They kiss, exchange I love yous, and Logan takes off, arriving to the news that President Kelly has been assassinated by Dr. Doom. He wanted to take advantage of the USA's current disarray, and now the White House is under siege. With or without Steven Seagal, we don't know. Logan points out that Von Doom's been 6 feet under for years, which you'd think the others would know too, but no time to elaborate as Doombots bust through the door, looking to take the heroes out. Citing the Latverian dictator's penchant for dodging the Grim Reaper, Banner transforms, this time to the gray-skinned Mr. Fix-It. Some expository banter indicates that he seems to change differently each time, but is still touchy about being called Bruce when he's all hulked out. Also, for some reason, Pete and Logan's suits actually turn gray. Weird. After the metal menaces are thoroughly scrapped, they're left with only one option: head to Washington, D.C. and defeat Doom himself. Mary Jane wants to join them, not wanting to wait by herself to hear about the outcome of battle, but Peter insists she and May stay under the watchful optics of Lurch, their sentinel robot, which I guess they just have.
Apparently active guard duty isn't in his job description, what with, the horde of androids that just busted in. Or was he on his union-mandated coffee break?
Logan senses something amiss about Ghost Rider's absence, since he's usually the first on the scene when a fiery number 4 is in the sky. As they fly off in a new Fantasticar, he goes on that X-Man finally killed Apocalypse and became the High Lord, and that Dr. Doom died fighting him alongside most of Earth's heroes, X-Men included. And since Magneto annexed Latveria and made it a mutant state, Doom wouldn't let that continue if he were still alive. They're targeted by an unseen foe and struck with something the artists didn't actually represent, but let's assume it's a missile since it blows up their ride. What the flamin' heck was that all about?
Pay your parking tickets!
I guess the Fantasticar has hypersonic jets or something because they're fighting Doombots on the White House lawn. That was a pretty quick flight, I gotta say. They bust inside and find Ghost Rider tied to a machine, warning them of the trap. Dr. Doom shows up, declaring the U.S. government dismantled and his reign secure, with little else to do but to kill the new Fantastic Four. As Hulk gets a little greener to clobber Tin Face, Wolvie starts cutting Ketch free, only to be told too late that the ropes were connected to a timing device, which now has 1 second left. That ain't good.
Did your animal keen senses clue you into that one, dude?
Also, there's this weird lone exclamation point here. I think there was supposed to be some word or text or something, but perhaps it got left out by some editing mishap. But moving on. I guess that timer wasn't counting down because the fight rages on, with the explosion forthcoming. As Hulk suddenly turns back to gray for whatever reason, instead of disarming the bomb, he lifts it up as the building starts crumbling further and throws it upward, allegedly into orbit. More Doombots storm in as Logan lunges at their master, ripping off his faceplate to reveal a robo-skull with human-like eyes.
Ugh. It's like that time I snuck into the back room at the Build-A-Bear workshop. Ugh.
That's when Arnim Zola appears, revealing that he used some tissue from a clone Victor Von Doom made of himself, and made the only kind of bootleg copy that the FCC can't find him over. Little weird considering it looks basically just like a machine, but with human-looking teeth and eyes, but whatever. Zola had planned to seize power in the shadows, using the Copy Doom as a puppet, and destroy the 4 strongest remaining heroes to succeed where the self-styled High Lord failed, and conquer the planet. A statement that raises a question I'll get to shortly. Parker's spider sense is set off something fierce, as unmasking the Doom clone apparently activated a self-destruct.
If I blow up, aren't you going to die too?
I hadn't thought of that.
Wolvie slashes at the villain's TV screen chest face, apparently blinding him as the 4 evacuate. Feeling confident he can disarm his creation, Arnim blindly reaches around for the puppet, finding it just before an enormous explosion.
If Logan broke the screen that just displays his face, but he still has that camera on his head, how is he having difficulty seeing? Or is that just one of those prop cameras some people put up to fool others into thinking their place is under surveillance?
The team watches the remains of the White House burn, with some doubt if there were more Doom clones or if that was really Arnim Zola they just fought.
It'll turn out that was a backup of Zola, remote-controlled by the real mastermind, Stiltman!
They turn around to some commotion, a crowd celebrating Graydon Creed, Sabretooth and Mystique's human son, being sworn in as the new commander-in-chief, because that makes so much sense mere yards from where the White House just exploded.
And they are so dumb.
And for some reason the crowd is all looking the opposite direction of the guy they're cheering. So a scene that makes no sense is made even more nonsensical. The issue ends as Logan notes how Creed has been eyeing the presidency ever since mysteriously reappearing, and is even worse than Kelly, wondering what happens now.
Give it some time, wait until someone assassinates him again, see if anyone cares the second time. That was Wolverine 148's Ages of Apocalypse tale, and it wasn't bad, until things started getting all wonky.
I was not aware that these characters had filled in for the FF before in canon, and for a one-and-done alternate reality tale, it was at least a nice tie-in conceptually. It has the same pre-established histories and events being referenced, like previous installments, or like with the Amalgam comics, but personal interactions are limited outside fighting together for the most part. There's no real getting invested in Logan's relationship with this Stacy woman, and little context for why Logan wasn't with the X-Men in that final battle. And if Zola was planning on becoming the new High Lord, does that mean Nate Gray was ultimately killed too? The world, and the US in particular, are alleged to be all messed up, but mostly that's seen in some constantly burning buildings. Besides that, there's no real indication of how bad things are supposed to be.
I suppose the High Lord could have been defeated, and this FF is just trying to pick up the pieces, but it's weird how nothing in this story seemed to play into Apocalypse's plans in any way.
No other X-Men feature here. They barely get mentioned outside their deaths, and at no point does it seem like it was going to help Pocky retain his powers. In several ways, it feels kind of out of place from the first 2 parts, and not just because it ended without Wolvie being snapped back to the primary reality. Pacing gets a little crazy in the second half, with 3/4 of the team making the 226-plus mile journey from New York to DC a lot quicker than you'd think it'd take, and people partying their new probably evil prez within spitting distance of a superhero battle. And I don't think you can blame universe altering on that. It just feels rushed. Similarly, they state how Banner's transformations can result in a different Hulk each time. Certainly an interesting concept, to say the least, which could explain why he kept flipping between green and gray at the last half, but I have to wonder if that was just a coloring error. But that aside, I had no problem with the art.
Next week, reality continues to be played with like a weird pinball game in X-Men Unlimited number 26. Don't know why this ends with citing the last part, but hey, maybe that's all part of Apocalypse's plan. I'm the Angry Spork, and man have I got issues.